today? Are we about to be living in a world where Sean Strickland and Kobe Covington are champions at the same time? And what about Ian Gary versus Vicente Luque? Will Vicente use Ian's wag against him? And what about Alexandre Pantoja versus Raw Dog Brandon Royval? Will the legend of Pantoja continue, or will the Raw Dog upset Saturday night? All of this, plus Shavkat's fighting. All of this and more on Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. We are right back in it. We are right back with it. It goes down this Saturday night, UFC 296. We're talking about the main event. Leon Rocky Edwards steps in the octagon with Kobe Chaos Covington. Let's get into it. So first off, on this fight, man, this is going to be interesting. I'm just going to say up front, I'm not a huge Kobe Covington fan, although I'm not one of those haters that denies his abilities or his skills. But straight up in this one, I got to go along with Rocky. I got to go along with Leon Edwards. So I feel like Leon Edwards has extremely good striking, right? He's a very sharp striker. He's a calculated striker. He sets traps. He lures guys into these traps. Now, Kobe Covington has 2 losses to Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman is nowhere near the level of striker that Leon Edwards is, which has kind of been proven now. And you know, their second fight, the one that went down in Salt Lake City, I mean, I think a little bit of that we can chalk up to the altitude, you know what I'm saying? And also that tremendous between round speech from Rocky's coach. You're letting him bully your son. But nevertheless, bro, Leon Edwards is that dude, man. I wasn't for sure he was going to win that third fight with Kamaru Usman, the one that went down in the UK, but he went out there, he proved me wrong, he proved everybody wrong. He did his thing, dude. And I feel like if this was Kobe Covington from about 4 years ago, 3 years ago, this might be a total different fight. But dude has been out since March of 2022. You know what I'm saying? Like, he hasn't fought since then. And I think that when you're talking about him versus Usman, neither man is a really good striker. And both men are really good at wrestling, so it kind of canceled it out. So you kind of had a stand-up fight. Every now and then guys would go for takedowns, and even though they didn't actually give him the score of it, I believe Kobe actually has the first takedown against Kamaru Usman, but I don't think they even counted. They was like, nah, Kobe, we ain't counting it. Nevertheless, dude, I got to go along with Leon Edwards. I mean, I just feel like Leon is going to be able to pick him off on the feet. Leon has really good takedown defense, as well as he has good defensive wrestling, which he's shown against Usman. When you take that second fight aside, the one at altitude, you know, he neutralized Kamaru perfectly in their third fight in the UK. So I got to go along with Leon Edwards, the welterweight champion, to go out there, defend his welterweight championship against Kobe Covington. I feel like that Kobe's lack of schedule, the fact he's been out of the octagon, I believe the fact that he's had all of these outside distractions, you know, I feel like you have to lean toward Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards hasn't had the same out of the octagon distractions. He hasn't had any lawsuits. He hasn't had any court cases. So I got to go along with Leon Edwards to go out there and get the win over Kobe Covington. Let's move on. In the co-main event, we have Alexandre Pantoja, the flyweight champion, defending his belt against Brandon Royval. Raw Dog Brandon Royval. So while we talking about dogs, let's go ahead, let's get it out up front. You know what I'm talking about? Let's get right to it. Everybody knows that Alexandre Pantoja got that dog in him. Everybody knows that that dog lives at his home. That dog trains with him. That dog eats breakfast with him. That dog eats dinner with him. Hell, that dog is part of his family, you know what I'm saying? So everyone knows that Pantoja got that dog present and in him. With all of that being said, when you talk about a fight between him and Brandon Royval, I believe Brandon Royval is hittable. All right. I'm not saying he's chinny at all, but I believe that he definitely is hittable. And Pantoja is a precise striker, and he's very good at. I would say he's very good at combinations, because usually when Pantoja hits you, he's hitting you with, 3, 4, 5 punches. You know what I'm saying? Most of the time. It kind of depends. Also, you got to look at the fact he's already beaten Brandon Royval once. And Pantoja has shown, since he beat Brandon Moreno 3 times, that, once he beats you, he's not really a guy that beats somebody, then they come back and beat him, then they trade off wins and losses. That ain't Pantoja's style. When Pantoja beats you, you know he beats you, and that's it. You can come fight him 3, 4, 5 more, 10 times. Alexandre Pantoja is still going to win. In my opinion, I believe that Brandon Royval's best shot at this fight is going to be to catch Pantoja in some sort of a sneaky submission. He's really good at grabbing somebody's neck, choking them out, head and arm chokes, ninja chokes, rear naked chokes, all of that. He's extremely good at that. So if he's going to win, I only see him doing it by catching some sort of a sneaky submission. Nevertheless, dude, I got to go along with Pantoja. I think Pantoja is that dude right now at 125, or at least until he faces Manel Kape. But I feel like Pantoja is that guy. I feel like he's going to go out there and he's going to be able to go ahead and put Brandon Royval away. So it's going to be very interesting to see. But like I just said, I feel that Royval is hittable. And I could definitely see him, Pantoja, catching him off guard with a few shots, wobbling him, kind of taking his endurance down by damage, and then being able to go ahead and submit him on the ground. So we'll see how it goes. I could also see him outpointing Royval at the end of 5 rounds. But I got to go along with my dude Pantoja for the win. Let's move on. Next, we have Shavkat Rakhmonov stepping in the octagon with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Okay, so for this one, it's probably an easy call. I got Shavkat all day. The way that I see this is Shavkat really proved a lot of things in his last fight against Jeff Neal. Primarily, with a lot of these prospects, one thing that you never really know about a prospect on their rise to the top is you never really know if that dog is present. You never really know if they can take a beating. You never know if they're going to be able to make a comeback if the fight gets rough. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like Jeff Neal took Shavkat into deep waters. I'm talking about Jaws territory. I'm talking about Brody, we going to need a bigger boat territory. Jeff Neal, that dude went out there and put them hands on him and took him into deep waters. And Shavkat showed that not only can he swim in deep waters, but he'll flip it around and become the shark in deep waters. You know what I'm saying? I feel like Shavkat really showed a lot of things. He showed he could dig down deep and pull out a win, even on the feet, and then eventually, choke a guy out if he has to. You know what I'm saying? So I got to go along with him. I know Stephen Wonderboy has looked a little bit better in his last few fights, but, sometimes you see some of these prospects come along and the cut of the cloth is a little bit different. And I feel like Shavkat is that dude. So in my opinion, with later career, later stages, Stephen Wonderboy, dude, it don't matter what he does in there. I think Shavkat's going to be able to take it, and he's going to be able to get the win. So there you go. I'm picking Shavkat to take this fight. Let's move on. And it's time to get sad. The next fight, Tony El Kukui Ferguson steps in the octagon with Paddy Pimblett. Well, okay. So let's just talk about this real quick. Tony Ferguson is in a tough spot. Paddy's in a tough spot as well, but Tony Ferguson is in a tough spot with the UFC. Because Tony's been around forever. He's a well-known guy. He's a very liked guy. And I'm sure that he's on a really good contract with the UFC. And when you make that much money, the fact of the matter is the UFC is not going to give you, toss up guys or guys that you're going to beat them and everybody's like, oh, he gets a win. He's back in the win column. If they're going to put you in there with somebody, they're going to put you in there with somebody that they think is going to beat you and that you're going to give the rub to that person when they beat you. You know what I'm saying? Or if you beat them, then at least it's kind of a name that newer fans, casuals actually are aware of. That's the position Tony is in. Now, with this fight, I will say, Paddy Pimblett is a winnable fight for Tony Ferguson. I know Tony's he's on a 6-fight losing streak, but Paddy Pimblett ain't really that good. You know what I'm saying? He lost to Jerry Gordon. They just gifted him the win. Paddy Pimblett is not that good. Now, before I give my pick, I will say again, this is a winnable fight for Tony Ferguson. Now, with that being said, Paddy is also in a bad spot because there's not a lot for Paddy to gain at this. Because Tony's one of those legends that already lost 6 times. So now that he's already lost 6 times, if Paddy beats him, he doesn't stand to gain a lot. So Paddy's kind of rolling the dice here, to tell you the truth. Because I'm sure they could have matched him up with somebody else. Although, I mean, Tony is a name. But at this point, who hasn't beaten Tony? Because 6 guys have. So it's like, at this point, it doesn't do a lot for Paddy. It does everything for Tony if Tony can win. Because to the casual fan base, to a lot of fans, they know who Paddy Pimblett is. The hardcores know Paddy's not good, but your average person probably thinks Paddy's good because he's popular. So if Tony beats him, to the average person, they're like, hey, this Tony Ferguson, he still got it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's an interesting fight. But at the end of the day, regardless of bringing in David Goggins to training, which I don't know if that was the smartest tactic, I got to go along with Paddy Pimblett to get the win. I feel like at this stage in his career, at this stage in his life, I don't feel like Tony has the physical strength to really bring any type of physicality to Paddy Pimblett. And Paddy Pimblett is a guy that he's a horrible striker, but he's a really good grappler, I should say. He's really good at scrambles, and he seems to be extremely strong on the ground, you know what I'm saying? And I just don't think that at this stage in his career, Tony's scrambling ability seems to be leaving him. He doesn't seem to be able to get off of bottom when he's taken down, or when a guy does, grapple him to the ground or help pin him up against the cage. So I just feel like all of the things that Tony has gotten weaker at in this stage of his career is what Paddy's good at. So I'm gonna have to go along. It's sadly enough, it's so sad when you're talking about the dude that at one point in time some people thought could beat Khabib Nurmagomedov. I think Paddy Pimblett's gonna get the win over Tony Ferguson. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to move on from that. But we're going to move on because we all expecting it. Let's go. Next, we have Ian Gary Machado, or Ian Machado Gary. You got Ian Machado Gary stepping in the octagon with Vicente Luque. So, let me throw out a little caveat here. I feel like, okay, I feel like that if Ian Gary hadn't started all of this drama over the internet within the last 3 to 4 weeks, I'd say he goes out there and he defeats Vicente Luque. No disrespect to Vicente Luque, but I think he goes out there and he defeats him. Now, with that being said, I feel like when Ian Gary goes out there and he trash talks Colby Covington, he trash talks Sean Strickland, he trash talked Neil Magny, he started a online feud with the MMA guru. All of these people, except for Neil Magny, go hard in the paint. You know what I'm talking about? All of them got bars. All of them throw darts when you're coming at them. And he had the obvious being his wife, and I've made a previous video about his wag wife. Um, Bro, here's the deal. I feel like Vicente Luque is going to go out there and defeat Ian Machado Gary. And this is why I think that. What I have noticed in a lot of Ian Gary fights, not every fight, but in a lot of them, he's not chinny, but he does get caught. He tends to get caught in his fights. Sometimes he gets dropped, but he tends to get caught in his fights. And I feel like when you're in there with a seasoned striker, seasoned grappler, just a seasoned fighter, period, like Vicente Luque, you can't run the risk of getting caught. You know what I'm saying? Getting caught on the feet, I mean. You just can't run that risk, because if Vicente drops you or he wobbles you, he doesn't have to keep firing away punches and tire himself out to finish you. He could easily take you to the ground and choke you out. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. I feel like Vicente Luque is motivated. He went out there against RDA and did his thing. I feel like he's motivated. He wants to show that he's still that dude. I think his training's going well. Also, let's talk about the fact that Ian Gary's been kicked out of 2, maybe more than 2 gyms recently, including Leon Edwards' gym. So his training can't completely have gone perfect when you're getting kicked out of gyms recently, leading up to this huge fight. So I think the war words, he's already talked about that he's a little bit worried about the safety of his family when he comes for this fight. Bro, I just got a feeling that, I have a feeling that Vicente Luque is going to go out there and do work. I think that I'm not saying that Ian Gary can't take the pressure. I don't think he shies away from the limelight at all. But I think you picked a fight with too many people with bars. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like they've been barring him and his wife up for almost the last month now. And, I just think that, Vicente Luque hasn't had all of those outside the octagon distractions. Also, him and Ian Gary used to train together. And that was when, Vicente was more of a killer at that time. So I feel like he's probably picked up on a few details. Not saying Ian Gary is not a better fighter, but I feel like Vicente's got his number. Next, we got Josh Emmett stepping in the octagon with Bryce Mitchell. It just point blank period. I got Bryce Mitchell. I think Bryce Mitchell definitely is developing hands. And if anything, if he don't have hands yet, he definitely throws with power. I feel like his ground game is exceptional. You know what I'm saying? So, and I feel like, I just think Josh Emmett is too late in his career. I'm not saying he just needs to hang it up and retire, but I feel like he's been to the top of the mountain. He didn't win the title. And I think at this point, you're probably going to see a few little cash grab fights to get those checks on his way out the door. You know what I'm saying? So I got to go along with Bryce Mitchell to get the win here. Next, we have Irene Aldana versus Carol Rosa. And this one, I got to go with Aldana to get the win. I feel like, not saying Carol Rosa is not good or anything like that, but I think outside of fighting Amanda Nunes, Aldana, I think she's that woman, you know what I'm saying? I feel like she's going to be able to piece her up on the feet. I don't think that Rosa's going to be able to translate anything on the ground to truly put Aldana in danger. Not saying she can't get a takedown here or there or try to drag her to the ground from up against the cage. But I think Aldana is a good enough grappler, or defensive grappler at least, to be able to stand back up, get up against the cage and stand back up. I feel like Aldana is going to get the win, probably by decision, or maybe a 3rd round stoppage, but I'd say by decision. Next, we have Cody "I'm Chinny" Garbrandt stepping in the octagon with Brian "Boom" Kelleher. I gotta actually go along with Cody "Chinny Chin Chin" Garbrandt. I think Chinny Chin's gonna get the win here. I feel like Brian Kelleher of early pandemic days might have been a little bit different. I think Chinny Chin Cody Garbrandt has enough left in the tank to get Brian Kelleher out of there. I see it being a second round KO or second round TKO stoppage. But I think Chinny Chin's going to get him out of there. I don't think that Brian Kelleher has enough to dethrone Cody Garbrandt at this point in his career. Even though we all know in any fight, Cody Garbrandt could just lay the gloves down because that chin left like 5 fights ago. But I'm going to go along with Cody Garbrandt to get the win here. Next, we got Casey O'Neill stepping in the octagon with Ariana Lipski. This one was tough. You know, normally it should be pretty easy. You just go ahead and go along with O'Neill. But it really depends. Was O'Neill's comeback fight, did she look bad in that fight based out of her opponent? Did she look bad in that fight based out of the fact it was her first fight back after a really bad knee injury? You know, she just didn't quite look the same. She didn't look like the O'Neill from before the injury. Now, she's had some more time off. She's had time to, you know, maybe really get back into training, really get back in the swing of things. She got that first comeback fight out of her. You know what I'm saying? So it could look a little bit different, but I think there's a lot of question marks on Casey O'Neill. You know what I'm talking about? You know, she looked like the Riddler with that green outfit without the question marks. Because I'm not really too sure. But I hope I don't regret this on DraftKings. DraftKings, holla at me. Out here doing the Lord's work. Every Saturday night I'm betting with you. I'm letting people know about it. Holla at me. I'm going to go along with Casey O'Neill to get the win here. I'm going to go along with her. I will say Lipski she's really been looking good. You know, she's really been looking good here in her last couple of fights in the octagon. I think the you know, where the hesitation comes in with Lipski is a few fights ago, she wasn't looking good at all. And, you know, she had taken some losses and it was kind of looking like, okay, she's just going to kind of be at the bottom of the division and we don't really got to worry about her. But, I mean, she's been making a good run. Her last few fights, she's looked really good, really sharp in them. But I think that Casey O'Neill is a much more skilled fighter. So I'm going to go along with Casey O'Neill to go out here and get the win. Hopefully the questions will be answered and we know that she's right back where she belongs. King Casey. I'm going along with King Casey. Let's move on. Alonzo Menifield stepping in the octagon with Dustin Jacoby. I got to go along with Dustin Jacoby. Here's the deal, bro. Alonzo Menifield struggled against Jimmy Crute. That's really about all you really need to say. But I mean, Dustin Jacoby, bro, if you saw that fight, he beat Khalil Roundtree. They gave Khalil the win, but he beat Khalil Roundtree 2 rounds to 1. And I mean, Khalil Roundtree just went out there and, you know, hopefully ended Anthony Smith's career so we don't have to keep seeing this Anthony Smith experiment. Let's stop doing it. The experiment's been proven. It's over. Ain't no more hypothesis. It's over for Anthony Smith. So, I mean, I got to go with Dustin Jacoby in this one. I just think that Alonzo Menifield doesn't have the best fight IQ. He's got a lot of power. He's a strong guy. He's also a strong grappler, but he's not the best wrestler. He's not the best submission guy. He's not the best on the fence. On the feet. He's just a tough, strong dude. But, I mean, he didn't really have the skills to get Jimmy Crute out of there like how he should have. So, I got to go along with Dustin Jacoby to get the win here. Next, we got Tanjiro Lembekov stepping in the octagon with Cody Durden. Sneaky underdog pick. I'm actually going to go along with Cody Durden to get the win here. Now, I know, like, his opinions of Brazilians and things of that nature and the way he kind of yells different stuff out after, you know, in post-fight speeches. It's giving a little redneckish. It's giving a little hillbilly-ish. You know what I'm talking about? It's giving a little, old Ford pickup, old Chevy pickup driving. You know what I'm saying? It is giving that, a little bit of Storm the Capitol January 6th. It's giving it. It's giving that. But I will say, though, I've liked his style in the octagon here recently. It's a sloppy style, but it's a dog beats dog kind of style. Like, you know what I mean? He really gets in there. He makes the fight dirty. I like his wrestling. I like his grappling. I love his scrambles. Watching his fights, if he's dealing with a guy that's got a good ground game, he's got awesome scrambles. And I don't know, skill wise, you would think his opponent would take it, but I I'm gonna go along with the underdog pick. I'm going along with Durden to get the win here. I just something about him. I think he's gonna be able to go out there and get it. I don't know. I might eat those words, but I'm going along with him. I think he's kind of on a little small run now. I think he's kind of putting the pieces together. He's not going to be a prospect. He's not going to the top of the division, but I can see him getting the win here. So I'm going along with Cody Durden. Next, we got Andre Fili stepping in the octagon with Lucas Almeida. I'm a huge Andre Fili fan. I'm gonna go along with him. I think I feel like that he's a really good fighter. I feel like he's a really skilled fighter. I think he's had a few decisions not go his way, and that kind of gave him somewhat of a downward trajectory on his career. Now, I'm not saying there wasn't fights that he didn't deserve to lose, but I feel like there were a few decisions that should have went his way, and I feel like the complexion of his career would have looked completely different, you know what I'm saying, if they would have went his way. I'm going to go along with Andre Fili. I feel like that he's going to be able to bring a little bit of physicality with the striking here. I believe that he's going to be able to catch him a few times on the feet. Almeida is definitely, I would definitely give him the submission advantage, but just something about it, because I don't think Andre Fili is definitely a slouch on the ground in the grappling and the scrambles. So it's a tough one, but I'm a Philly fan. I'm going to go, it's weird. I'm a Philly fan, but I don't know. I feel like I should say pause in that pause. But I'm going along with Andre Fili to get the win. Next, we got Martin Buday against Shamil Gaziev. I got to go along with Buday with a sloppy win. Just a big heavyweight slop fest. Just bowling shoe ugly. Just a nasty win. This is just probably going to be a sloppy heavyweight fight, so it is what it is. But I'm going to go along with Buday. I'm going to go along with him. Finally, we got Randy Brown stepping in the octagon with Muslim Sandikov. I'm going to go along with Randy Brown on this one. I feel like Randy Brown is going to be able to keep the fight standing for the most part. I definitely think he's going to get taken down, but I think he'll be able to get back to his feet, or at least he'll be able to ride out the round and be able to capitalize at the beginning of the following round on the feet. I think he's going to be able to keep him at range with his jab, and he has really good teep kicks up the middle. I feel like he's going to be able to keep him at range with all of that. So I'm going to say Randy Brown gets the win here by decision at the end of the third round. I don't think he's going to stop him, but I think Randy Brown's going to win by decision here. I think he'll be able to outpoint him. And, shout out to Randy Brown. I like his style. I like his style of striking. He's kind of a showboat type of style. It's really cool to see because, nowadays so many fighters are kind of boring in their striking. So it's good when you see somebody that's wanting to play a few little games, have a little gamesmanship. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Randy Brown. I got him for the win. And that's it. That's the end of the tweet. You know what I'm saying? That's UFC 296. It goes down this Saturday night. It's a stacked card. Last card of the year for the UFC. So we won't see them back in the octagon until sometime in January. So it should be very interesting. A lot of stakes there. 2 main event title fights, main and co. So it should be very interesting to see. Please tell me, do you agree with these picks? Who do you got in these different fights? You know what I'm saying? Do you think Leon Edwards goes out there and takes Kobe Covington? Do you got Pantoja in the co-main event? Let me know what you think. Do you got Ian Gary? You think he's going to go out there and win his fight? Or do you guys... Is there anybody brave enough to pick Wonder Boy over Shafkat? Y'all let me know in the comments. Please like, subscribe, comment. And once again, I appreciate all of you guys for checking out my videos. And I do want to thank you for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace.